Well, now that we know how poppy is planted, harvested, cleaned, and stored, we're ready to see how the poppy seed roll is actually made. What's the first step, Lorene?
Well, first of all, I would like to refer you to the recipe. It has to the filling. There's 2½ cups of poppy seed, 2½ cups sugar, and 1 1/4 cups of boiling water. But before I start my dough, which can be your favorite sweet dough recipe, this happens to be mine, I grind my poppy because I like to have it set several hours before I roll it. We use these little electric grinders, which are really, really nice to use. We used to use these old meat grinders, which had a flat blade, and that was hard work. But when we ate them, we thought it was worth it anyway. I grind by just adding 1/4 cup in this little grinder. And I sort of have a method that I use. I count. I count usually to 17. If you don't count too fast, and you have to grind it, add on to your time. I like to stir it because if the poppy is oily, it's not all the same. It sticks to the bottom and cakes, and then it's a little bit harder to get it smooth. So now I add about 10 more counts. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think this could have maybe 3 or 4 more.
It all depends on how fast you count, I guess, huh?
It can make a difference. I take it into a bowl, but this is what it looks like after it's ground. And then you take the same amount of sugar. That's what it looks like. It's really fine. The same amount of sugar in a bowl, and mix it, and add the boiling water. Although that is a little bit tricky too, you have to be careful and not just don't dump the whole thing in at one time. You might get yourself into trouble. But and then again, it makes a difference. Sometimes you add a little bit more water, and the reason for adding it slowly is that you don't get it too thin, but it does thicken as it stands. And sometimes, by the time I make the last ones, I add a little bit of hot water. That can, there's always a remedy for that. But this is the consistency of a good spreading consistency. Now I shall put my dough out. I like to let it rest for a little while. Again, don't have quite so much trouble rolling it if it rests a little while. I do have to have a little bit of shortening on my fingers.
Does it make any difference what brand of flour you use?
I don't use these fancy flours or these brand names. Well, I guess I won't mention any, but I always use unbleached flour. Some say that's just as bad, or the unbleached is or the bleached flour is what they use. I don't know what they use to bleach it, but some say that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. What about the yeast? Do you use special kind of yeast?
I have the fast rising yeast now. That I like that quite well. It really makes a difference. It just rises a lot faster. Now we need one more. They aren't all uniform. I have a cousin back home where she weighs them. She weighs her dough. But I didn't get into that yet. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky because it always comes back to you.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like elastic. Now, when you roll that dough out, are you striving for a particular size?
Well, I like to have it about 2 feet long, but I think I might have a little bit a smaller piece of dough here. I might not get it quite that length, and about 12 inches wide according to the pan. Because I put 3 in a 9 by 13 pan. Sometimes it takes quite a bit of flour, but the dough is quite pliable. It's nice and soft. It's kind of a teaser, this dough.
Looks like you're getting it. Now that looks a little bit better. Why do you occasionally lift that up and turn it over?
Well, if you wouldn't do that, it would stick to the table and you would have everything in shreds.
No. Okay.
You have to. You want to have the same thickness around the edges too. If you don't, if you have your first roll would be, you'd have a white line all across the poppy seed roll. I don't know if it would alter the taste any, but it wouldn't look very nice. Some don't like dough, too much dough.
You'd get the white line from it being too thick on the edges?
Yes, from here, the fold. The fold. I think I'll have this for the first fold because this looks a little bit wider to end up with. This looks pretty good, so I think I'll pour the filling. I'd like to have it at least 2 feet long and about 12 inches wide. I'm not sure if the width is quite that, but
Do you always make the filling with water?
I always do. Make the filling with water.
Some cooks use milk, don't they?
They use milk and they use cream. I have a sister who uses cream. Now I don't see any reason to add those extra calories. My family likes it the way I make it, and so I don't add cream. Some add a little bit of butter.
Into the filling, you mean? Butter into the filling.
Into the filling. Mm-hmm. Some add milk and they add a little bit of butter. Of course, butter makes things taste very good, but it's if you spread it well to the end, to the sides, to the edge, you'll have a good end. At our house, the end was often the one that stayed to the last. So guess who ate the ends? The kids would say, well, Mom eats the ends. But I caught on to that too. I cut the ends the other way. So.
How do you mean the other way?
At the end, I cut it instead of
lengthwise instead of across the width of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this looks like a fair amount of filling in here.
That looks great to me from here.
Now I'm going to moisten the edges a bit.
And why do you do that?
It just makes it stick together a little bit better. It doesn't give it such a chance to run out. Although I don't have much trouble with it running out. Now we'll start from this end. Some roll it and some fold it.
Does the dough ever tear when you're doing that right there?
I don't have much trouble with it tearing, but I had holes in it already. When I rolled it too thin, you can get holes in it, and that's not a very pleasant thing.
Of course, that's the idea, to get it as thin as possible without getting it so thin that it tears, right?
Yeah. You bring it over like this and kind of try to pinch it with the, but there too you have to be careful that you don't pinch a hole in it. You have to be careful if you try to do that. If you don't have enough flour down, you could really get into trouble. You might tear a hole in it. I try to pinch the ends. Now I think it's ready for my greased pan, 9x13 pan. I put 3 rolls in a 9x13 pan. That is the size that is sold at the auction.
Mm-hmm.
You turn it upside down, so the seam is at the bottom. It makes a nicer appearance on top.
It looks like there's a little knack to picking that up off the table. That was a swift motion you did there.
Well, might take a little bit of practice, but this is what it looks like. Mine looks a little bit crooked here, but it's going to taste the same. You bake it 30 minutes. Maybe ovens aren't all the same. My oven at home is a little bit hot, so I don't bake it quite that long. But 30 minutes should be sufficient.
At what temperature?
At 350. At 350. I bake mine less than that because my oven is hot. Now, if this recipe, this poppy seed recipe, is in this book, Mennonite recipes, that is sold on the souvenir table, you might be interested. It's very much like mine. It has a 2 1/4 cups poppy, and mine has 2 1/2 cups poppy. But it's really simple in that book, and also gives the dough recipe, which is similar to mine also. But you can use any sweet dough recipe, and it would be fine. You when after it's baked, you cool it a while on the racks, and I take them out and try to pull them apart, because when they're cold, they're much easier to separate. Now, I have a finished product here. This is what it looks like when it's done.
Say, that looks pretty good. When we shut the camera off, we'll sure try that out.
Well, it wasn't made just to look at, so.
That's all we need to know then, right?
Do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I think after we watch this video, we'll be able to do it. Perhaps a good way to end the video would be to read this poem, which some of you may have heard. We may live without poetry, music, and art. We may live without conscience and live without heart. We may live without friends. We may live without books. But civilized man cannot live without cooks. And I would add cooks that make poppy seed oil.